So we said we want to use these three categories and create specific functions, but also not do this, which is what happens in the supplement industry a lot. It's like just fairy dust things and just mix a bunch of things that are popular together to make it so it's marketable. What we did is we approached her and we said, we want you to analyze all of these just like you do when you work with a patient one-on-one. So when it comes to herbs and functional mushrooms, adaptogens, they have warming and cooling properties. When you talk about traditional Chinese medicine or herbalism, they have wet and dry properties. They have contraindications. So it's important to understand what else you're doing in your life, how they could work with each other. And for us, we said, we're going to use our clinical herbalist expertise to make sure that these actually all work together in a very effective way.
Hi, I'm Andy Jackson.
And I'm Lauren Parsons, and this is the All Well Co podcast. Dive deep with us as leading experts share their unique perspectives on topics such as recovery, sleep, movement, and the latest innovations in the space. In today's episode, we're thrilled to be joined by Joe Sheehey, visionary leader of Cured Nutrition. Discover the journey that propelled him from personal lows to becoming a trailblazer in the wellness industry. We'll cover his evolution from confronting personal obstacles to creating a leading-edge, health-focused enterprise. Dive in with us to learn about his unique story and the impact of his work. Let's get right to it. Joe, starting off, your journey to founding Cured Nutrition is not just a business story, but it's a deeply personal one. Could you share with us the pivotal moment in 2012 that led you to redefine your life's purpose and ultimately establish Cured Nutrition?
Yeah, I appreciate you starting there. We'll go right in. 2012, I found myself in one of the darkest places of my life. I was in my last year of college, my fourth year, and it ended up taking me 5 years to graduate. But I was in my fourth year of college in Boulder, Colorado. And one early morning, April 2012, I found myself coming out of a blackout. And where I found myself was on the other side of a guardrail of a bridge with my toes hanging off the bridge. And I was inches away from jumping off and ending my life. And I was stopped by somebody under the bridge that night as I was coming out of my blackout and blinking around and looking at the surroundings around me. Somebody down on the rocks below said, "Don't do it." And it was 2:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. That man, his name's Ben. I have him saved in my phone as Ben the Angel, quite literally saved my life. The truth was that at that time, there was a huge dissonance or distance between the person that it is that I really wanted to be and the person that I was. I was drinking, doing drugs, basically trying to numb as much as I possibly could at that time in my life. I was working through what I recognized later was a lot of pain from my experience as a younger kid. And it was expressing itself as a lot of anxiety, which ultimately led to depression. But I was numbing myself, and more nights than not, probably 5 out of 7 nights a week, I found myself out partying. And while that may sound like something typical for a college student, the truth was I was in my fourth year of aerospace engineering school. I had, going into college, had been somebody that many people looked to as athletic, took care of himself, made good decisions, was doing well in school. And so that's who I really wanted to be. And I wanted to be somebody that was known as honorable and trustworthy and did the right things. But the truth was, I just wasn't that person. And that gap between those two people, the person that is that I want to be and the person that I actually was, just led me into such a dark place. And I was trying to escape myself. The weeks and months after that night, I was seeing therapists, doctors, and I was instantly put on several medications. And while I always start here, the most important piece to take from what I'm about to say is the fact that our business exists simply to create an alternative. I was put on antidepressants. I was put on more anti-anxiety medications. And the truth is, those work for many people. And I'm happy, and so many people would agree that in the right conditions they helped the right people, but the truth was it wasn't helping me. And as I started to work through what was causing all the darkness years later, I still experienced things like anxiety. And I got to the point later down the road where marijuana was legalized in Colorado. And I was working for Lockheed Martin at the time. And I remember Lockheed Martin sent out a notification. They said, hey, just because it's legalized in Colorado, we're a federally funded company. That doesn't mean that you can use cannabis here. And I got that notification and I was like, yeah, that's interesting. I know why it's moving the way it is, because it's becoming this alternative for so many people. And there's just such a stigma around it. I would hear conversations at work, people being like stoners, this, that, and the other. And the truth was, I started to, at the time, use CBD. And I noticed that CBD was great for helping me relax, helping me fall asleep. And that ultimately led me to greater recovery, better performance. As part of my work out of the dark place was committed to uh, bodybuilding competitions. So I was doing a lot of physical activities. And I noticed that CBD was helping me a lot. And I was using it not to get high, but I was using it actually to support my overall physical being from a performance standpoint, and then my mental being from a relaxation and sleep and overall health and wellness perspective. And when I saw everybody's reaction in my career at Lockheed Martin, I was like, this is so wrong. Like, I think everybody's missing the mark. I think so many people are getting this blanket statement of, okay, CBD is related to marijuana. This person's a stoner. They can't be highly respectable. They can't be an expert. They're not responsible. And then in there, I realized that I wanted to be part of shifting that narrative. And for the couple years after that event where marijuana was legalized in Colorado, I started to talk to more people in the health and wellness space, and they started raising their hands and saying the same thing. They were like, oh yeah, I explored CBD. I've explored these other alternative methods, but I'm nervous to share with other people that I'm doing that because of the stigma. And it continued to come up over and over and over. And at the same time, I was just recognizing I wasn't happy in my engineering career. I was like, I don't feel like I have this deep, tangible impact on other humans. And I want to have that with my life. I would hear Joe Rogan talk about the Thoreau quote where he says, most men live lives of quiet desperation. And I would recognize that I would be sitting in my cubicle living that life. Like I wanted something else, but I would show up and punch in and click away all day at my computer and then leave and be like, this was another day of staring at a computer, but not feeling like I had impact. And it was like this 3-year process of wanting to be an entrepreneur, not knowing where to be an entrepreneur, attempting things, working less. I actually went to 32 hours during my time at Lockheed Martin at one point so I could explore being a personal trainer. That didn't really pan out. And then ultimately, I got to this place where I had taken another job, not at Lockheed Martin. And at the time, I had moved to a new city. I was engaged. That relationship ended up ending. And I found myself in this place where I didn't love where I lived. I didn't have friends. I was in a career I didn't want to be in. And my boss was belittling me. And when I reflect on that time in my life, I know my boss was belittling me because when I would show up for work, I knew I wasn't giving it my all. When I can reflect on it, he could see that I didn't want to be there. But when I was in it, I couldn't actually recognize that. But it got to this point where I started getting depressed again. And so, having been depressed years before and recognizing that dark place, I recognized myself slipping again. And I ended up going to see an employee service therapist because it felt like my life was falling apart. I was in this employment contract. I had a signing bonus. I had relocation expenses that I had to give back if I left. I didn't have my relationship. I had like all these things that when I sat in the therapist's office and explained it to him, he said, I understand you're going through a lot in life, but you're also telling me about this idea. And the idea was what I was talking about with you. I was like, I could use CBD and I could use alternative methods to help my overall well-being. I have so many friends raising their hands saying that they agree, but I'm not doing anything about it. And he's like, I understand everything that's going on in your life, but I'm going to stop you right here. And he turns to his desk, he pulls out a card, he wrote something on the back, and he handed it to me. And he goes, Joe, I'm going to give this to you, but I need you to give this to you. And I flip over the business card and it says permission on it. And he goes, Joe, you're looking for permission from everybody in the outside world to make a different decision with your life. But the only person that's going to give you that permission is yourself. If you never come back, that's okay. But you have to give this to yourself. I put in my letter of resignation that night. And the next day I woke up. I had no job. I had an idea. And now, 6.5 years later, that was in September 2017. I now run what is Cured Nutrition, which is what we say one of the most forward-thinking alternative supplement companies out there. And we're here to change the narrative on everything that I just discussed by pushing the limits, changing a narrative, being well-respected individuals in all areas and using alternative methods. And so that's how Cured Nutrition came to life.
It's interesting listening to you, because everything you said about men, I can share, and we'll chat a little bit later about how I use Cured Nutrition and why I've used it, and how we got together. I was fascinated though when you talked about blackouts, and I think it's something interesting to share with you is that I've had some health issues the last year. I ended up getting a heart procedure, but one of the things I've been getting is these little mini 10 to 12 second blackouts. I eventually went and got an EEG, and eventually I've now found out that I've got something called focal epilepsy. And as a result, I am taking a very small dose of an anti-epileptic drug, etc. And it's a result of probably all the concussions I got when I was playing soccer. Is probably where I've got there. So I think I can share and empathize with you as to why just sometimes you've got to reach out. Sometimes you just got to go see what's going on. And, I'll talk you through a little bit later as to how and why I use your products, and I'm a massive fan. But that's a fairly dark start to our our podcast. You've been doing this for a while now. You said since 2017. Come on, tell me a funny moment that you can share publicly about your Cured Nutrition adventure.
Oh, there's so many. So many. I think when I think about the funniest thing that's ever happened to me, I would say that it's reflecting on where it really started, because the most important piece for so many people, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, is just to start. But here's the truth. When I look back on where we started compared to where we are today, this company was started by us selling seasonings. So, seasonings to season your food. And it would be a seasoning mix and a CBD isolate powder blended into it. And for me, the funniest part is to look back at this picture. I was at the 2017 Mr. Olympia contest, and I have a picture with Chris Bell, the Bell brothers, Chris and Mark Bell. I'm standing there and I'm holding a business card that says Cured Spices on it. And on the back is a baggie of seasoning that's stapled to the card. And the funniest thing for me is to pull that up and to recognize where it started to where we are today, because at the time, I was just so thrilled that I was pursuing something that I wanted. I completely looked past how ridiculous it was for me to be walking through the Mr. Olympia contest with what looked like a little druggie bag stapled to a business card, and for me to wear a $5 shirt that said Cured Spices, for us to have 200 Instagram followers, and to think about how much we've evolved since then. And the whole meaning behind all of this is you just have to start. So many of us are wanting to perfect something before we start, before we get out into the market, before we get some feedback. And that's just not how it works. We have to create momentum. So for me, it's just looking at that picture to see where it started, to see what I was doing, to see the little business card, to see Chris Bell like in the picture with the thumbs up, and to know where it is today. And I haven't talked to Chris Bell since the 2017 Mr. Olympia, but I would love to go back and see if he actually remembered that, because it's mind-boggling to see how much can change in 6 years. And so it's almost just like this constant reminder. It's a little giggle to remember where things started.
So basically, you've gone from a drug taker to a drug dealer to a spice dealer to a nutrition dealer, is what you're basically saying.
That's me. It's hilarious. Yeah.
What's really quite interesting for me when I talk to people about supplements and taking additional things to support your nutrition and your balanced diet, there's a lot of people out there who are just general doubters who basically believe that simply eating a balanced, healthy diet is all the nutrition you need. So how do you and the team at Cured Nutrition respond to that when people say, well, I don't take supplements, I don't need supplements, I've got a healthy, balanced diet?
Yeah. I would say that this is such a great question, because how we at Cured describe ourselves is we say we're a supplement company, and supplements are supplemental to healthy lifestyle habits and routines. So those are always most important to start there. But the truth is, those just food isn't necessarily going to take away all of your stress. Just food isn't going to necessarily take away your inability to sleep. Just food isn't going to get you that extra. Like, you could probably be like 80%, 90% efficient when it comes to nutrition and lifestyle habits and routines. But supplements are quite literally the thing that makes sure that you are 100% achieving the complete support that your body needs, from vitamins to minerals to herbs to all of the things that quite literally just don't exist in our food. And unfortunately, food is becoming less and less nutritious as everything scales up and production quality drops. So at the end of the day, you can get pretty far. But I truly believe that if you really want to optimize your overall well-being, you're going to have to close the gap with supplements. Now, we keep it very simple. We say brain, gut, and whole body relief. So we have products that are going to help support your brain. We have products that are going to help support your gut. We have products that are going to help you sleep and press the reset button. But even if we just talk about gut, you could have a perfectly nutritious diet, but if your gut lining isn't working properly, or you don't have the correct prebiotics or probiotics or microbiome being created, then you're not going to be absorbing all of those nutrients that you're working so hard to put into your diet. And so you're just not getting the full effect of a healthy diet. And I think that it's great to start there, but at the end of the day, you're not going to get everything that you really want to be to live at your ultimate optimized level without taking supplements.
Cured stands out for its innovative use of ingredients. I mean, it's quite amazing just the quality that you guys put into what you do. Can you give us an overview of the main categories of ingredients used in your products, such as the cannabinoids, functional mushrooms, and adaptogens?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. When we started 2017, 2018, the CBD market by itself was exploding. And we saw that that was a potential threat, because there wasn't a way to differentiate yourself from the competition. You could go to sourcing, of course. Sourcing is always very important. But we recognized that we needed to innovate even further. And the truth was, this company started because myself and my co-founder, believed in alternative methods, like I discussed in the beginning of the podcast. But we knew that we would have to expand just beyond a single molecule, because if you look at the supplement industry, a lot of companies will sell like one component or one molecule. CBD, you could talk about fish oil, vitamin D, but like vitamin D versus another vitamin D, if that's the only thing that you're selling for your brand, it's going to be hard to differentiate yourself. So what we decided was we wanted to take the most innovative approach that we could And we actually got connected with a clinical herbalist out of Boulder, Colorado in late 2018, beginning of 2019. And at the time, we recognized that she was able to work with her clients one-on-one from basically like a traditional Chinese medicine type approach. She's a clinical herbalist. She uses different type of formulas to help support her patients with different functions. And we knew that the mushroom industry was also starting to gain momentum. And we knew that with all of these industries, mushrooms, cannabinoids, and then even just like adaptogens, which will show up in a lot of products these days, we knew that they were all going to have a great runway into the future because people were looking for alternative methods. But there was no company that was combining the three for specific functions. And so we talked to our clinical herbalist and we said, hey, we would like to take your approach of working with clients, but scale it as much as we can. So we said, we want to use these three categories and create specific functions, but also not do this, which is what happens in the supplement industry a lot. It's like just fairy dust things and just mix a bunch of things that are popular together to make it so it's marketable. What we did is we approached her and we said, we want you to analyze all of these just like you do when you work with a patient one-on-one. So when it comes to herbs and functional mushrooms, adaptogens, they have warming and cooling properties. When you talk about traditional Chinese medicine or herbalism, they have wet and dry properties. They have contraindications. So it's important to understand what else you're doing in your life, how they could work with each other. And for us, we said, we're going to use our clinical herbalist expertise to make sure that these actually all work together in a very effective way and position ourselves not as just a cannabinoid company, not as just a functional mushroom company, not as just an adaptogen company, but somewhere in between, which makes us really versatile so we can go one way versus the other. And also what we've noticed is just those three categories being combined, you can create very effective formulas. And in 2019, we started down that path with Rise and Zen, and then we've expanded since then. And we have many products that combine all three of those ingredients.
We're just building on that a little bit then. So how do you and the team decide on, which ingredients to use in those formulations? And then have you got a specific criteria you follow?
Yeah, so it typically takes us about a year to develop a product. And what we do is we'll have a general idea of what ingredients do what, but we'll do things where we'll go to like examine.com. Examine.com is one of the best places you can go to look at ingredients to understand their function and also show the studies behind those ingredients. So we'll come up with a list of ingredients. We'll always want to do things like we'll go to our supply chain, make sure that we can source organic, and then we'll take all of the ideas that we have, and then we go to our clinical herbalist, and then she'll do what I said. She'll tell us how these are going to work together, and then she'll say these have potential contraindications, and then we'll do 3 to 5 formulas with different ingredients in them, but for one function. So we'll actually talk about this in a little bit, one we're developing right now, but we'll take that array. We'll say, hey, her name's Callie. Callie will come to us and she'll create 4 to 5 different functions. And then we'll do internal testing for several months. So we'll have our manufacturer manufacture them, and then they'll be sent back to us. And we'll actually do like blind testing. It's not considered like double blind placebo because that's a whole nother level. But we're doing testing where our closest community, all of our employees are testing those formulas blind and then giving feedback on them. And then we're making sure that we get the best ratings across the board, because the truth is we all respond differently to supplements. So we want to look at the results, but then we also want to look at like the versatility. Some of our products, you could take 1, you could take 2 capsules, because somebody like my business partner, he'll respond very easily to stimulants like in our Rise formula. And it'll take me taking more. And that's just how it works when you have different types of like genetics. For example, he has red hair, he's more fiery, stimulants are more effective for him or affect him more versus me. So we spend that whole process is why it takes so long for us to develop a product. I know that's not like exactly your question, Andy, but like we go from a standpoint of like these ingredients could work, go to our clinical herbalist and say, what do you think on how they'll work together, create a bunch of different formulas, and then do essentially blind testing to see that we're getting the best results across the greatest number of people.
I want to take a step back here, just quickly. Joe, what is CBD, and what is the difference between CBD and CBN?
That's a great question. Very good question. So CBD is one of over, right now, they believe there to be over 100 cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. CBD stands for cannabidiol, and cannabidiol is one of all of those cannabinoids. CBN, cannabinol, is another cannabinoid. THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, is another cannabinoid, and they all have different functions. So the best place to start is the difference between CBD and THC, and then I'll talk about CBN as well. When people think marijuana, they think THC, they think intoxicating. CBD is non-intoxicating. However, it is psychoactive. So when we say psychoactive, what we mean by that is it has an ability to have an effect on neurotransmitters in the body. So like the GABA receptor, it has an ability to affect that or to modulate it. And so what CBD does is it gives you therapeutic effects, but it doesn't give you the intoxicating high of THC. So CBD, many people will just use it for its calming and relieving effects. THC is the thing that would actually be intoxicating and would get you high. CBN actually comes from degraded THC. So CBN is THC degraded, and CBN is not intoxicating. However, it does have a more potent sedating like effect. And so CBN is a cannabinoid that would be better for relaxing and getting to a deeper sleep. It's more of like a heavy body effect, whereas CBD is more of like a head effect, and it's more for like the short-term relief, but you can use it over the course of time to actually get more of the benefits from a recovery standpoint. And many people will notice that if they come off of CBD, they'll notice like aches and discomfort could actually come back. That's because they've used it over a course of time and they've built up a therapeutic level. So CBD, CBN, THC, those are 3 out of over 100 cannabinoids. There's other that people are very interested in, like CBG, CBC, but they all have different benefits. Not all of them are intoxicating, which is the most important piece to understand, because many people think that they're all intoxicating, which they're not.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for going into that. Are there any other common questions or concerns that you tend to get from either your clients or our listeners that would be beneficial?
Yeah, most people ask, will I pass a drug test? And I'm going to answer this in a very specific way, and I answer it very carefully because we need to say it correctly. So our full spectrum products, when we say full spectrum, what that means is it's basically the least refined extract possible. And so when the cannabis plant or the hemp plant, where we extract all of our extract from, the hemp plant is a cannabis plant with less than 0.3% THC. So hemp and marijuana, they're both cannabis, but hemp has very, 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 very little THC in it. Marijuana has the greater THC. That's what you get in the dispensary. Those two are different. When we extract from the hemp plant, however, there are very small concentrations of THC in it. So it is in there in a full spectrum product. For most people, it's not enough to feel it, but if you took enough, you could feel it, and there's a slight chance that it could show up on a drug test. Now, if you were concerned about that being the case, it also depends on how active you are, because you can metabolize THC very quickly. It actually stores in fat cells. So all of this matters when you're making your decision. But most importantly, half of our line is THC free. So if you're worried about it, you just go to half of our line that says THC free on the label. There is no THC in there. We're 100% going to confirm that. We do batch testing on every single product before it comes into our inventory and we receive it. So we can guarantee that there's not any THC in those products. If you're concerned, go for a THC free product. But that's one of the questions that comes up the most.
It's really interesting because I think I mentioned earlier, I'm one of your regular users, and for me, it's fairly straightforward. As this one to the left here keeps me busy as my boss and keeps me thinking about work 24/7. So I find, joking aside, I was finding it hard to shut down at night and get my brain. So I'd lie in bed and just things would be whirling around in my head. And you kindly introduced me to your CBD tincture and CBD oil, which I do the 45 seconds after I brush my teeth. I put it in my mouth, I wash it around in my mouth, and it just allows me to kind of drift away. So I'm quite a good testimonial for kind of sleep, and it's really interesting. If I don't take it, it is that short term effect. I'm wide awake thinking about what I've got to do for Lauren tomorrow. Um, have you got any other sort of, highlights of real people impact of your products, particularly things like Zen for Sleep, like me, or recovery? Have you got some good testimonials so that one-on-one makes two that people could understand?
Yeah, yeah. It's a great question. Also, your guys' dynamic is the best. Yeah.
She doesn't have any choice.
You guys are amazing. We actually, I don't know if we're sending out the email this Sunday or the following Sunday, but we have an email coming out very soon where we have a huge collection of people sending in their Aura data. So the Aura Ring, a lot of people use them as their sleep tracker. We had a bunch of people send in their sleep data. And anecdotally, people report it all the time, but we're also seeing it in the data. So you can look at both. But it is confirmed through person after person after person. Not everybody, I'm never going to say a blanket statement, but people are showing an increase in the amount of deep sleep that they're getting. And then that also is contributing to the amount of REM sleep that you get. So REM sleep is the second half of the night, which is where a lot of us typically dream. But the more deep sleep that we get in the first half of the night actually can help contribute to more REM sleep. This is something that Dr. Mindy Pelz, one of our partners, actually shared with us, that the deeper sleep you get, the more REM sleep you'll probably get. But the point that I want to get across is that we continue to see that coming through. And so what we're noticing is that more and more people are actually, if you just said it this way, more and more people are actually recognizing that their sleep efficiency is going up. They're falling asleep quicker. The depth of sleep is deeper, and then they're getting a more complete night's sleep on the tracker. And we get people sending us that Aura data all the time. It'll be, this is without it, this is with it. And it's amazing to see that, because for us, when we talk about testimonials, we have so many young moms that come to us, and they are so busy. They get very little sleep, but the sleep that they do get is high quality sleep. And this happens to us all the time. That is huge. And then overall, just stress relief. We get this all the time. And this is so cool, because this is one of the, like, part of our heart behind what we do. So many people are going to our Serenity gummies and using those as alcohol replacement. They give you almost this like euphoric relief feel. So we call it like your new happy hour. But for us, if you're getting that relaxation, you're getting that ability to exhale at the end of the day, you're not going to happy hour, which happy hour is going to mess up your sleep. Then you're getting a whole life benefit. You're not only are you messing with something that's disrupting so many areas of your life, but you're not getting the side effects that actually are coming from drinking a glass of wine, which I'm not against, but it's just true that we all experience those types of things. And it's shown in a lot of data that it heavily affects your sleep. So us being able to create another alternative for the world that is very stressed out, those types of testimonials that we get, we actually got an email probably about a year ago, and the subject line was a love letter to Cured. And they were talking about our Calm oil that you use, Andy. But she said, I just can't thank you enough. My life has changed immensely when it comes to my overall stress, my ability to unwind. And I'm no longer somebody that's reaching for a glass of alcohol at the end of the day. And part of what led me to that bridge in the beginning of this story was alcohol. Alcohol killed my cousin, it killed my grandpa, it killed my uncle, it almost killed me. And for us to have an impact on people that are looking to this as an alternative, that right there is just like living purpose driven, and that's something that fills us up so much. So sleep all the time, stress relief all the time, but for most people, like, you get those back or you change how those are affecting your life and you get your life back. And that for us is everything. That's what keeps us pushing forward.
Joe, I just wanted to pick up on one thing is that we've got to have a lot of people here who are into recovery and rehab. We've got a lot of professionals who listen to this, and that's their world every day. And everybody at the moment seems to be jumping into an ice bath. And that seems to be the magical cure at the moment. How do your products work on that? Anti-inflammatory, recovery, rehab. Um, you know, does everyone need to jump in an ice bath? Is what I'm really asking you.
No, you don't need to, although I will agree that it is very beneficial. It's very effective. But the truth is, and this is like a part of where we have to be careful, because it does, cannabinoids are being studied to have anti-inflammatory like effects, and you have to take them over the course of time to actually get that benefit. But you think of things like turmeric, ginger, many of those have been studied to do the same. And the truth is, you should almost look at CBD just like a vitamin. Like, it should be taken daily so you get the therapeutic levels. So for me, to answer your question directly, if done and taken consistently, you can absolutely get those recovery benefits that you're looking for. And then again, if you are sleeping, you will get those recovery effects. You don't need to be hopping in an ice bath. If you're not starting with your sleep, you're probably skipping over the most important piece. And an ice bath is not going to solve that. If you're not sleeping, you're quite literally not recovering. We don't recover in the gym. We recover outside of the gym.
So you sure I shouldn't be taking your products sitting in an ice bath then?
You can. If you send us pictures, we'll probably send you more.
So Joe, two questions. One, what is your favorite cured product right now? And two, are there any new ingredients or innovations that Cured is coming out with in the future that we should be excited about?
Yeah, great question. So first, my favorite cured product is right now our CBN nightcaps. I have a daughter myself, running a business and trying to scale a business and doing all the things that running a business requires is stressful, and I have to get my sleep. If I don't get my sleep, I am not the person that I want to be. So I always go to that product. But right behind that is our Serenity gummies that we just released about a year and a half ago. I take those daily. I have them sitting at my desk, and I'll take them at 4 p.m. because it's like my end of the day unwind. So from 4 to 6 p.m., those will start kicking in. I'll go eat dinner with my family. We'll put my daughter down, and then I'll go back to any more work that I have to do. But like, it's a great way to ease the day and unwind. So those two are my favorite products. In Serenity, that is a blend that we talked about before. It has functional mushrooms, it has reishi, it has L-theanine in it, which is an adaptogen. Then it also has ashwagandha, which is an adaptogen as well. And then it has the full spectrum CBD. We continue to get people coming to us interested in functional mushrooms. There are some people that actually don't want to take cannabinoids for whatever reason it may be. So we reformulated our Aura product, which is a gut health and immune support product, to have more functional mushrooms in it. We took out the CBD. So that's our first non-cannabinoid product. And we'll actually be continuing to do more non-cannabinoid products into the future. And we're really focused on optimizing the brain, overall brain health. I'll leave it at that, but that's where we're exploring a lot of opportunity.
You've led neatly into kind of what I was going to ask you. So, kind of switching gears, we've got a very professional audience here, and there's a lot of them who want to effectively market and promote cured nutrition to their clients for all the reasons you talked about, whether it be sleep or relaxation or recovery or stress relief. Have you got any tips for them as to how they should promote your products to their clients and their personal networks?
Yeah. I think, when we were talking about those sleep trackers, the problem is that in our world on social media, there's a lot of noise. And since there is so much noise, a lot of the times people think certain things like CBD are just a fad. But the truth is, if you can actually show the data, which we actually have, and we've been continuing to see, that is going to tell anybody like, hey, here's the data right here. But even more so, I think it's important to really make it clear that this is not something that is just like an as needed. It should really be used consistently like a vitamin, because we have our endocannabinoid system. It's our body that has cannabinoid receptors. It's quite literally there. And if we can share with people that are interested in relief, recovery, stress support, sleep, it actually, your endocannabinoid system actually affects your mood, your sleep wake cycle, your appetite. Why do we have that system? It's not just to use exogenous cannabinoids. Absolutely not. It's like, it wasn't like we were made to use cannabinoids. But if we have that system and cannabinoids can actually regulate that system, it's very important for people to understand what that system controls. And if you're focused on health, wellness, and fitness, you're definitely focused on your sleep wake cycle. You're definitely focused on your appetite, and then you're also focused on mood regulation. And your endocannabinoid system directly can affect all of those. So one, I would say talk about that. Two, show the data. The data is out there. And the problem is, because CBD has seemed trendy for so long, it went through this wave and there was a lot of low quality products on the market. So many people are writing it off. So I think it's important for anybody that's helping their clients to let them know it should be used almost like a daily vitamin. That's where you really start to see the effects. We don't start a diet one day and see the results. It's an overtime type thing. So routine, data, endocannabinoid system, and the science behind all of that, that's where I would go, especially as a health and fitness professional. Like those are non-negotiables. It's like dive into the science.
Well, there's no doubt there's going to be a lot of professionals here who are looking to build their own business. They're looking to get their own successful brand. They're trying to get potentially a product range out there. You get any successful tips or lessons that you could share? Because this is what this is about. We're about professional advocacy, but we're about a community of helping each other. So have you got any tips for people who are listening to this who want to build their own brand and product range?
Yeah. These are like two sides of the same coin. So it's really interesting. Just get started. Like I said, you can start very simple. But two, as you get started, never compromise quality. So where we started is absolutely not where we are. And the reason we are where we are is because we never compromised on quality. So it created a product that actually worked. If the product if the product needs to be fixed, if the product is broken, you are not going to have clients come back to you. And that's what's happened in our industry. You have to have an excellent product and you have to have an excellent brand. That's part of your product. And your brand is so much more than just the product. What we do as a company is, if you subscribe to our email list, if you follow anybody that represents our brand, you guys, all Wellco, you are focused on education first. And for us, that's what we do as a company. And we get feedback all the time that that's so helpful, because as a supplement company, we're not leading with our product is the first thing to go to. We're saying you should do all of these things for zero cost. You should move your body. You should do this. You should do that. You should eat these foods. You should try these routines. And then you should try our supplements too. But if you're just coming to our supplements first and foremost, then you're not going to get what you're really looking for. So it's almost like we're like turning people away, but we're doing it in a way where we're like, we care about you, the person. We're not going to sell you something that, if you're not focusing on these things, is not going to be helpful for you. But at the end of the day, that's just putting a foot forward. That's service. Like, we're here to serve. And if we're not doing those things by educating, then we're doing a disservice to our customers by just trying to sell our supplements. So I said, get going. Don't ever try to be perfect to start, just start, but then work on perfecting as you get feedback. And that's where you're not compromising on quality. And then be very clear how you can provide as much value as possible without a customer needing to buy your product. One of my mentors always says, he said, provide so much for free that people feel obligated to become your customer. And I was like, that's so good. They're like, take my money. And so that's what we try to do.
So if I'm summarizing what I've heard from you today, is what I've heard is lead with education. I've heard you say, most importantly, personally, give yourself permission to succeed. And then I've heard you say, give absolutely exceptional customer service. Those seems to me like the business tips that you're offering our audience.
1,000,000%. Because your customer could be way better at marketing than you are. Your customer can go get you another customer, but it's always, people are always looking at what you're making them feel. What do you feel when you experience our brand? Well, we work very hard to create an experience. So that's why Apple does so well, right? It's an experience.
So to wrap things up, our podcast focuses on strength, kindness, and perspective. In that spirit, is there any person, any company, any product that you'd like to acknowledge or give a shout out to?
Oh, it's so good. It's such a good question. One of my greatest mentors, I spent 3 years in a program with him. His name is Ed Milet. And I would just love to shout out Ed Milet. He has transformed my life. He shows up with strength, power, and kindness and empathy. And like when you combine those two, the trust that is built within you is unwavering. And so I love that you two lead with those three values, because inherently at the end of the day, we live in a world where if we're lacking trust, we have a massive issue. So there can be a lot of problems in the world, but if we focus on those things, then being powerful and empathetic or kind at the same time, I mean, how could you not love somebody like that? And I have to shout out Ed Milet because he's been a huge mentor for me over the last several years.
Just quickly before you sign off, I hope today's conversation with Joe has motivated and captivated you as much as it has us. Stay tuned for more enriching discussions like this one in our future episodes. And if you're interested in learning more about the Cured Nutrition products, visit curednutrition.com for more details. If you're part of All Wellco, Joe and his team are offering members special personal discounts, as well as discounts for clients, friends, and family. Just head to allwellco.com for your discount code to use on curednutrition.com.